Family photos were a rare and bittersweet ritual during my childhood. Once every few years, the process would unfold with painful predictability. We'd cram into our car, itchy wool sweaters and forced smiles in tow. The photo studio itself felt like a fluorescent-lit interrogation room, where Mom would fuss over our hair, the acrid scent of hairspray hanging heavy in the air. Those portraits, stiff and awkward, captured none of the warmth or authenticity of real life. They were mere snapshots of a moment in time, devoid of any genuine emotion. School pictures were no better. Each year, I'd participate in the joyless ritual of stare, click, back to class, with all the enthusiasm of a mandated flu shot. High school marked a turning point, a time when my sense of identity began to shift. Gone were the forced smiles of childhood portraits. In their place stood an angsty teenager, rebelling against the mundanity of everyday life. Then came Instagram, offering a platform that seemed to demand self-expression. Despite my initial reluctance, my friends dragged me into its orbit, and soon my profile became a meticulously curated gallery of artfully posed selfies. Head tilted at just the right angle, eyes fixed on some unseen horizon. Each photo was a testament to the "I'm-so-cool" persona I was desperate to project. These staged snapshots, so different from the stifling family portraits of my youth, came to define my online presence throughout high school, creating a carefully crafted digital mask that concealed my true self beneath layers of filters and feigned nonchalance. My first job after high school was meant to be a temporary moneymaker, yet it ironically hurled me headlong into the heart of a bustling photo lab. The pungent scent of developing solution permeated the air, clinging to my clothes like a stubborn shadow, seeping into my very pores. Harsh fluorescent lights bathed the room in a clinical glow, illuminating the conveyor belt of discarded memories as it trundled along. Lopsided birthday cakes captured in grainy stillness, chaotic family gatherings frozen in time, and the all-too-familiar forced grins of school portraits, each one a poignant reminder of my own awkward adolescence. In this dimly lit corner of the world, I bore witness to the fragile remnants of lives lived, loves lost, and laughter shared, all preserved in fleeting moments that seemed to dance along the edge of obscurity. The work itself was about as thrilling as watching the same movie for the 100th time. I'd punch in, submerge film canisters into their chemical baths, and battle the incessant temptation to scream my frustration into the abyss. The monotony was punctuated only by the sweet symphony of the closing bell, a beacon of relief in the desolate landscape of my workday. A few months into the job, our manager announced a new idea to offer customers personalized profile picture printouts. As she explained the details, she revealed that one of us would need to be the sample model for the promotional shots. My stomach knotted at the thought, but before I could fully process her words, the new photo booth in the corner caught my eye. It loomed like a judgment stand, its harsh lights bleaching the life out of everything they touched. Later on that day, as I was mindlessly scrolling through my phone, my coworker Charlene's familiar and flustered voice pierced the lab's steady drone. "Hey, you have a nice smile," Charlene chirped, a hint of desperation in her voice. "Mind being our sample profile picture model?" Despite the urge to decline, I found myself nodding in reluctant agreement. The weight of expectation pressed down on me as I followed Charlene toward the photo booth, the metallic tang of developing chemicals, mingling with the sterile scent of electronics in the air. I took my place before the imposing photo booth camera, its dark lens staring me down like the eye of some mechanized beast. I'd never considered myself photogenic, and the prospect of being the lab's sample model filled me with anxiety. "Say cheese," Charlene exclaimed. I forced my lips to curl, the corners of my mouth trembling with the effort. The flash erupted. Temporarily blinded, I blinked away the spots clouding my vision. Charlene's eyes narrowed as she peered into the viewfinder, her brows furrowing slightly. "You need to smile if you want to be our sample profile picture model." I did smile, I mumbled defensively. She gestured toward the monitor, and I braced myself for the awkward grin I was sure I'd see. Instead, the screen revealed my face completely devoid of emotion. No trace of my forced smile, no hint of tension, no spark in my eyes. "Let's try again," I offered, determined to rectify the image. I took a few steps back and fixed a smile on my face well before Charlene's finger hovered over the shutter button. The blinding flash filled my vision, and as Charlene examined the afterimage, her expression shifted to disappointment. "Now you're just messing with me. You didn't smile again?" Certain I had held my smile even before the flash, I opened my mouth to explain, but she cut me off with a dismissive shrug, her focus already shifting to an awaiting customer. "Thanks anyway." I had smiled. That was a certainty, yet the camera didn't capture it. My mind whirled, conjuring up possible explanations. A faulty flash, a processing mistake. Eventually, I pushed the incident to the recesses of my mind and completed my shift. After a few months in the photo lab, I decided to enroll in college, hoping to find a clearer path forward. College bulldozed its way into my life, a tsunami of textbooks and lectures threatening to consume me. Juggling work and studies transformed into a never-ending balancing act, but I held on to the hope that it would all lead to something better. Mornings kicked off with coffee, a futile effort to ward off exhaustion from late-night study binges. Lunch breaks became hurried pauses, a few stolen minutes to gulp down sandwiches before racing to the next lecture. Evenings turned into a chaotic dance of homework, assignments, and the inevitable dash to my part-time job at the photo lab. In the chaos, one constant remained: my mother's unwavering mission to find me a romantic partner. To her, my single life was an unforgivable void, an indication I wasn't living life to the fullest. Family dinners morphed into verbal obstacle courses, filled with thinly disguised remarks and helpful articles about the joys of marriage. "Aren't you bored of frozen dinners?" she'd joke, a knowing smile playing on her lips. "Maybe someone special could make you cooked meals." I had dated a bit in high school, but no one ignited a real spark. Perhaps I was just picky, but settling for anything less than a genuine connection felt stifling. Building a life on my terms was satisfying. Loneliness seemed like a small price to pay. Finally, I moved out to my own apartment, a haven from my mother's tireless "find someone already" chorus that crescendoed whenever I was around. The tranquility was euphoric, a refreshing change from the never-ending barrage of well-meaning, or so she insisted, advice. However, as the novelty of independence wore off, an uninvited guest crept in, a loneliness that had been skulking in the background. It sneaked up on me during silent nights spent gazing at my laptop's blue glow, or while passing couples ambling hand in hand, their laughter a poignant reminder of my own solitary existence. Perhaps, hidden beneath the deluge of my mother's advice, there was a grain of truth after all. With a resigned sigh, I tensed, my jaw tightening and my fists clenching involuntarily. Perhaps it was time to surrender, to dip my toes into the turbulent sea of online dating. If nothing else, it would at least give me a story to tell Mom. I downloaded the most popular dating app, its logo a tasteless winking heart. The sign-up process was its own gauntlet. Endless personality tests, meticulously curated prompts designed to unearth my deepest insecurities, and the constant pressure to devise a bio that was funny, deep, and charming, all within a maddeningly restrictive character limit. And then came the profile picture. Perching my phone on a nearby bookshelf, I set the timer and hastily retreated a few steps, the countdown's incessant ticking slicing through the silence. The thought of capturing a decent selfie, one that wouldn't scream awkward, seemed as likely as stumbling upon a unicorn. Facing the phone, I mustered a smile, willing it to reach my eyes. The flash erupted, bleaching the room in a stark light that sapped all color. Relaxing my strained expression, I braced for the inevitable discomfort of the self-portrait. My thumb hovered over the image and I tapped the screen. The image flickered to life. The image showed my face as plain as ever, replaced by a blank expression as devoid of life as a mannequin's. Resetting the camera, I backed away, this time keeping a smile plastered on my face as I waited for the flash. The picture snapped, and I checked my phone once more. The same unnerving blank expression stared back at me, devoid of any emotion. Desperate for this to make sense, I clung to the idea that something must have been wrong with my phone's camera. There had to be a reasonable explanation for this. I ransacked my room, digging out an old mini camera. I set the timer and positioned myself in front of the lens, forcing a smile. The camera clicked, its sharp sound echoing through my quiet apartment. As I approached the camera, my heart pounded, every step laden with anxiety. The screen confirmed my worst fears. I was a vacant shell, expressionless. But for the first time, I noticed something different. At the frame's edge, barely noticeable, was a shadow. It was vague, its shape blurry and undefined. I reset the camera and snapped another photo, making my face into an exaggerated grin. The image appeared and my breath hitched. My face remained expressionless, but the shadow had expanded. It was no longer a faint smudge. It appeared to writhe and pulse at the edge of the frame. Panic surged through me, hot and stifling. I clumsily handled the camera, snapping yet another photo with a forced smile on my face in a frantic bid to make sense of what was happening. As I turned the screen to view the image, I nearly dropped the camera from what I was seeing. In place of the blank expression that had plagued my previous photographs, I was confronted with an image of myself standing there, my face contorted in sheer terror. The smile I had on my face when I snapped that photo had been replaced by a grotesque grimace. The corners of my mouth stretched unnaturally wide. My eyes, wide and bloodshot, weren't focused on the lens, unlike when I'd snapped the photo, but fixated on something beyond the frame, something the camera's wide angle had inadvertently captured. The shadow. It had assumed a more substantial form, distinctly humanoid, looming at the edge of the image. The image revealed a version of me that was at odds with the moment of its capture. It seemed as if the camera had somehow stripped away the facade, unveiling the genuine emotion that was meant to be reflected on my face. Drawing a shaky breath, I switched the camera off and made my way to my couch. I slumped onto the couch, my mind grappling for explanations. No logic could explain why my captured expression didn't match the one I'd worn when taking the picture, or why there was a shadow above me in the photo. Craving nothing more than to quicken the arrival of the next day, I went to my bedroom, forcing my eyes shut in a desperate bid for rest. At around 2 a.m., something woke me from my uneasy slumber. My eyes snapped open, straining to adapt to the darkness enveloping the room. The quiet was broken only by my ragged breaths. As I scanned my room, I noticed one corner of the room that seemed darker than the rest. My gaze fixed on that specific spot, where the shadows seemed to gather more densely. It was there that I saw it. A darkness so profound that it defied the gentle glow of the moonlight seeping through the window. This was not the usual gathering of shadows. It was an unnaturally dense darkness, seemingly churning and pulsating with a hidden, ominous force. From within that darkness, a form started to materialize, a face that mirrored the unsettling image from the photograph. Devoid of eyes, a mouth, or any discernible expression, it flawlessly replicated the blank visage that had supplanted my own in the pictures. Abruptly, the shadow writhed, its dark tendrils extending toward me like reaching claws. A gasp tore from my lips as I lurched up, the bedsheet tangled around my legs. My heart thrashed against my ribcage, a frenzied rhythm breaking the suffocating silence. I was truly awake this time. Fear clawed at my throat as I searched the room. The oppressive darkness remained, but the face in the corner had vanished. I stayed up for the rest of that night, bathed in the cold sweat of fear. I'm not sure why my photos aren't showing me smiling in them, but just to be safe, I'm going to try to avoid getting my picture taken because I'm afraid of what I might see next.